They called me the backup father, but I showed them what real consequences look like. Hello, my name is Andrew Carter, and this is my sad story. I am 47 years old, an architect from North Carolina. I have built homes, towers, and bridges, things meant to endure wind, time, and human error. But the truth I learned too late is that no structure fails as suddenly as a family built on wishful thinking. I thought love could hold against everything. I thought effort could replace blood. I thought I was strong enough to make strangers into kin. I was wrong about all of it. 6 years ago I married Catherine. She was a widow with 2 teenagers, Austin then 16 and Savannah 14. I had my own 2, Luke 10 and Macy 7. 2 broken halves meeting at a quiet intersection of loneliness and hope. When we stood together at that small church near Asheville, I remember thinking that this was redemption, that after all the years of being a single father, of late-night deadlines and quiet dinners for 3, I was being given a second chance at building something whole. We moved into a house by the lake, one of those places that looked perfect from the road. Long porch, wide windows, a dock that caught the evening light. I designed the renovations myself, drafting blueprints at midnight while Catherine slept beside me. I wanted everything to feel intentional, balanced. I believed architecture could heal what grief had broken. At first it seemed to work. We went hiking in the Appalachians on weekends, had picnics by the water, and spent long summer evenings on the porch watching the sky fold into gold. Austin taught Luke how to ride a bike properly, running alongside him until Luke pedaled on his own. Savannah and Macy made scrapbooks together, gluing photos of all 6 of us. Laughing faces, sand-covered shoes, sunsets caught in glass frames. I kept one of those photos on my desk at work for years, convinced it was proof that I had done something right. There was laughter then. The kind that fills a house like warm light through curtains. Dinner tables alive with stories. Luke talking about soccer, Savannah humming along to the radio, Catherine smiling at me over the rim of her wine glass. She'd whisper things like, "You've brought peace into this home, Andrew." And I believed her. For a time I thought we had managed to trick fate, to build a home stronger than the ghosts that haunted it. I told myself that Austin and Savannah's late father, whoever he had been, could rest easy now. That I was giving his children stability, that I was doing what men are supposed to do: protect, provide, repair. But even then there were small signs. Tiny misalignments I ignored, the way a builder ignores a crack in the foundation because the paint still looks fresh. Austin would sometimes flinch when I used the word we. Savannah would go quiet when I asked about her day, like she was waiting for someone else to answer. When I hugged Catherine in the kitchen, her children's eyes would darken, not with hate but with distance. Still, I told myself it was just the adjustment period. Blended families take time, everyone says. So I gave them time. I worked longer hours to cover tuition, new clothes, the small luxuries that make teenagers like you a little more. I took on extra contracts, told myself the exhaustion was worth it if it bought peace. The first summer after we moved in, I organized a family trip to the coast. 6 days, 1 rental house, ocean air to wash away whatever tension lingered. For the first few days it worked. We built sandcastles, grilled fish, took photos. On the last night, as the sun dropped into the Atlantic, I remember sitting by the fire pit watching them all laugh. Catherine's head on my shoulder, the kids roasting marshmallows, their faces flickering orange in the light. I thought, this is what happiness looks like. But happiness built on effort alone is a fragile thing. It survives only as long as you keep feeding it. The moment you pause to rest, it begins to rot. Sometimes when I drove to work in the mornings, I'd glance in the rearview mirror and see all 4 kids in the back seat, heads bent over their phones, not speaking. The silence would hum like tension wire. I tried to fill it with small talk, music, jokes. But they had their own language, one I didn't understand. I was the foreigner in a country that I helped fund but could never claim citizenship in. Even so, I loved them. God help me, I did. I told myself love could teach patience, that gratitude would grow eventually, like ivy on stone. I kept fixing, paying, planning. I kept drawing invisible lines around the house. Boundaries that meant nothing because no one but me believed they existed. I remember one evening vividly. Austin was in the garage tinkering with an old dirt bike he'd found online. I brought him tools, showed him how to change the chain, how to measure torque. He barely looked at me, but I kept teaching. At the end, when the engine finally sputtered to life, he said, "Thanks," without looking up. It was small, but it felt like victory. I told Catherine that night that he was coming around. She smiled, kissed my forehead, said, "You're good for him." That sentence kept me going for months. Savannah, too, had her soft moments. Once she left a small note on my drafting table. "Thank you for the camera. I'll pay you back one day." I never asked her to. I just smiled at the handwriting, sharp, deliberate like Catherine's, and tucked the note inside a folder. I thought it meant something. The illusion was beautiful. So perfect that even now I sometimes miss it. The way you miss a dream long after you've woken up and realized it was never real. We'd host family barbecues by the lake. Friends would visit and comment on how blended our home seemed, how lucky the kids were to have so many people who cared. I'd nod, pretending I didn't feel like an actor in someone else's play. In those early years, I believed my job was to hold everything together, quietly, invisibly. I told myself that men who love don't need to be thanked, that service itself is the reward. I convinced myself that sacrifice was proof of worth. But sacrifice only counts when someone sees it. When it goes unseen long enough, it turns into something else entirely, resentment wearing the mask of devotion. Every night before bed I checked that the doors were locked, that the porch light was on, that everyone was safe. Then I'd stand by the lake, listening to the water move softly against the dock, and whisper the same promise to myself. You're building something real, Andrew. Just give it time. But time doesn't heal what's hollow. It only deepens the echo. Looking back, I see it now, the imbalance, the slow drift beneath the calm. Catherine's children never saw me as part of them. They saw me as the border between what was lost and what replaced it. Every kindness I offered was a quiet reminder that their real father was gone. And Catherine, though she loved me, carried her own guilt like a hidden scar. She wanted harmony, not truth. So I kept pretending. We all did. Pretending that laughter meant connection, that silence meant peace, that shared meals meant love. Pretending that a photograph could prove belonging. The house by the lake looked solid from the outside, but inside, the walls had big asterisk end to shift. You couldn't hear it yet, not then, but I could feel it, the faint tremor beneath the floorboards. The quiet before the first crack. I thought I had built us a home. What I really built was a stage. And soon enough, the performance would end. There's a moment in every doomed structure when the first fracture appears. It's small, almost invisible. A line so fine you think it's nothing. Then the rain seeps in. Then the wind. Then one day the house caves in and you swear it happened overnight. But it never does. It happens in whispers long before it happens in noise. That's how our family began to fall apart. Austin was the first crack. He turned 19, dropped out of community college, and decided that life was a scam invented by people who gave up on dreams. He called himself an entrepreneur, but his business was sleeping until noon and streaming games for an audience of 3. Catherine tried to stay patient. I tried to be calm. But every morning when I left for work, I'd see the light from his monitor bleeding through the curtains, an artificial sun rising in a dead room. Savannah followed close behind. She graduated high school by a miracle of attendance and declared that she didn't need college. The world's changing, she said. I can build a career online. She posted videos of makeup tutorials and monologues about authentic living, while Catherine covered her phone bill and I quietly paid the rent. It wasn't rebellion anymore. It was decay. They stopped coming to dinners. When I asked where they were, Catherine would shrug and say, "They'll eat later." Later meant pizza boxes hidden upstairs. Luke began skipping homework to play games with Austin. Macy, once gentle and bright, started using Savannah's language, saying things like, "School's a scam, and you don't need rules to be successful." I felt the foundation shifting under my feet, but I kept building, kept fixing, kept hoping. I told myself I could reinforce the family if I just worked harder. That's the lie men like me tell ourselves, that we can fix love with discipline and fix discipline with money. The truth is, money only delays collapse. One afternoon I came home early and found Austin in the garage. My old toolbox was open, half its contents gone. He was prying open the back of his laptop with one of my screwdrivers. "Careful," I said. "Those tools aren't for that." He looked up, eyes half-lidded with boredom. "Relax, Andrew. It's just a screwdriver." He never called me Dad. Not once. "Still," I said. "Ask next time." He smirked. "Sure thing, Andrew." Then quieter, almost a whisper, "You're not my dad anyway." It wasn't shouted, just dropped like a stone into water. But the ripple stayed with me for days. Catherine said I was overreacting. "He's angry," she said. "He feels lost." "Lost people ask for help," I told her. "He mocks it." She sighed, that soft, tired sound that had started to replace honesty in our house. "He's just a boy." "He's 20, I said. She didn't answer. Savannah wasn't cruel in words, she was cruel in silence. She'd walk past me in the kitchen, her phone in hand, eyes never lifting. Once I overheard her telling a friend, "He acts like he built us. He just pays bills." I stood in the hallway holding a cup of coffee that suddenly felt too heavy. Online it got worse. Austin started posting memes about boomer stepdads. Savannah shared videos mocking fake families. I was in the background of some of them, blurred, nameless, the faceless man providing the Wi-Fi that let them insult me. They called me the ATM and the backup father. Catherine saw it once. She froze, phone in hand, her face pale. Talk to them, I said. Tell them this isn't okay. She just set the phone down and whispered, they're just being dramatic. Don't make it worse. That sentence was the quiet death of something between us. From then on, every dinner was theater. I'd ask how their day was. They'd answer in shrugs. Luke would imitate Austin's laziness, calling me bro. Macy would roll her eyes when I mentioned grades. Catherine would smile, brittle and false, trying to glue the cracks with politeness. I started eating later, alone at the counter. The food tasted the same, but it filled me differently, like sand instead of sustenance. The house grew louder and emptier at the same time. Music thumped through walls. Doors slammed. Austin's friends came and went, leaving laughter that didn't belong. Savannah filmed in the living room without asking, turning our home into a backdrop for her digital life. Once I found Luke mimicking Austin, sleeping till noon, gaming till dawn. I told him to shut it down and study. He laughed, said, Austin doesn't have to. Why should I? I had no answer that would matter. I used to believe that patience was strength. That if I stayed calm long enough, respect would grow. But patience in the wrong place isn't strength. It's surrender. Catherine started avoiding confrontation altogether. When I brought up the bills, she'd nod distractedly. When I mentioned responsibility, she'd say, they'll figure it out. I realized she wasn't defending them anymore, she was protecting her own comfort. Keeping the illusion alive because admitting the truth would mean admitting failure. I worked more, spoke less. My office became a refuge. Blueprints made sense. Lines obey logic, materials follow rules. Wood doesn't argue. Concrete doesn't lie. But at home, everything disobeyed gravity. The night it really hit me, we were supposed to have family dinner. I grilled chicken, set the table for 6. Only Luke and Macy showed up. Catherine was upstairs trying to talk Savannah out of another content trip. Austin hadn't come home in 2 days. We ate in silence. Macy picked at her food. Luke scrolled on his phone. I asked, what are you two learning in school this week? Macy shrugged. School's a scam, she said. Savannah says people only study because they're scared of being normal. Something in me froze. And what do you think? I think she's right, she said, her voice flat, confident. I looked at Luke. He didn't even look up. Austin says I don't need college if I'm smart enough to hustle. I set my fork down. The air felt thin. My children, my own blood, were parroting the laziness of people who despised me. I wanted to shout, but what good would that do? Their heroes were living under my roof, eating my food, poisoning everything I'd built. That night, Catherine came downstairs after everyone had gone to bed. She looked tired, older somehow. They're just going through a phase, she said. No, I answered. They're teaching our kids that failure is freedom. They'll grow out of it. They'll grow into it, I said. We didn't talk after that. Weeks passed. The bills grew. The gratitude shrank. Austin borrowed money from Catherine's mother and lied about paying me back. Savannah sold old furniture online without asking whose it was. Luke's grades slipped. Macy stopped drawing, stopped talking about the future. I kept paying. Mortgage, cars, food, everything. The same silent transactions that kept everyone comfortable and me invisible. Sometimes, late at night, I'd scroll through the family photos we used to take, the ones where everyone smiled. I'd stare at those images like blueprints of a building that no longer existed. Every smile was a lie we told ourselves to feel less alone. One evening, I walked past Savannah's room and heard her laughing on a call. He's so dramatic, she said. Always talking about rules like we're in some sitcom. Another voice laughed back. Then she said, if he left tomorrow, nothing would even change. I stood there, unseen, listening to my own absence rehearsed before it happened. When I finally went to bed, Catherine was already asleep. I lay beside her, staring at the ceiling, counting all the small ways a man can disappear inside his own home. Respect had left. Gratitude had died. Love had gone quiet. All that remained was habit. And habit, when love is gone, is just labor. I told myself it was temporary. That maybe one day they'd see. But deep down I knew the truth. You can't build a family on borrowed hearts. The cracks had spread too far. The paint was still fresh, but the walls were hollow. And every morning when I left for work, I could feel the house leaning just slightly, as if waiting for the storm that would finally bring it down. Every collapse has a sound, a low hum before the crash. You don't hear it at first. You just feel it in your bones like pressure before a storm. By the time the walls start to shake, it's already too late. That's how it was for us. The house by the lake, the laughter, the forced peace, all of it was trembling long before it finally split apart. I just hadn't wanted to listen. The breaking point came on a gray Saturday in late March. Catherine found Savannah in the kitchen, sitting with Macy, a laptop open between them. I was upstairs in my office, sketching a renovation project, when I heard Catherine's voice, sharp, trembling, not the tone she usually used. "Savannah, what is this?" By the time I walked down, Savannah had slammed the laptop shut. Catherine was holding her phone, scrolling through **TS, her face white as ash. She turned the screen toward me. Messages, digital receipts, instructions for making fake bank documents. Savannah had been showing Macy how to forge transfer **TS to trick Catherine's mother into sending more emergency money. Macy's face was red, her eyes wide with guilt. Savannah was defiant, chin high, daring us to scold her. "It was a joke," she said. "We weren't actually going to send it." Catherine's voice broke. "You're teaching your sister to steal." Savannah shrugged. "Grandma can afford it. She sends money to everyone anyway." That's when I saw it, not just arrogance but rot. Entitlement so deep it had eaten the center of who she was. Catherine turned to me helpless. For the first time she didn't try to defend them. She whispered, "They're not just lazy, Andrew. They're toxic." I didn't answer right away. I went to my desk, opened the drawer, and took out the folder I'd been keeping for months. I hadn't planned to show it yet, but the moment had arrived. I laid it on the table, thick, worn, filled with notes, printouts, small records of every betrayal that had turned our home into a farce. Catherine opened it, flipping through each page. Photographs of stolen cash, text messages mocking me, receipts from cards used without permission, social posts where Austin and Savannah called me the ATM. I had documented everything. Quietly. Patiently. Like an architect tracing every crack before deciding where to start demolition. Catherine didn't speak. When she reached the end, she just sat down, hands shaking. "I can't protect them anymore," she said. "I don't even recognize them." For the first time in 6 years, I felt her words align with mine. It wasn't relief. It was sorrow sharpened into clarity. We made a decision that night. It wasn't emotional, it was structural, the kind of choice you make when you realize a wall is beyond repair. Formal eviction. Catherine agreed. We'd give them written notice, 30 days. They weren't minors anymore. They didn't pay rent, didn't contribute, didn't respect the rules. They had turned our home into a sanctuary for rebellion. It was time for consequence. When we told them the next morning, they laughed. Austin, half asleep on the couch, smirked like a boy who'd heard an empty threat. "You can't evict us," he said. "You're not even our real dad." Catherine answered before I could. "He doesn't need to be. This is our home and you're poisoning it." Savannah rolled her eyes. "Mom, stop pretending he's the boss. You're not going to throw out your own kids." Catherine's hands trembled, but her voice stayed steady. "Watch me." They didn't believe her. They thought love made her powerless. They thought kindness was endless. They mocked me online that night. I saw it all. A photo of the eviction notice, captioned, "Our stepdad's kicking us out because we told him the truth." The comments poured in. Strangers sided with them, calling me cruel, controlling, insecure. The post went viral in our small town. Neighbors started whispering. Catherine stopped going to the grocery store for a week. I told her to let them talk. The truth was already on paper. I spent those nights preparing, scanning, printing, gathering documents, bank statements, **TS, police reports from Austin's previous fights, proof of unpaid debts, every scrap of reality they denied. It wasn't vengeance. It was protection. When I filed the eviction case, the clerk looked at me with quiet understanding. "Family?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "For now." The hearing came 2 weeks later. The courtroom was small, the kind that still smelled faintly of dust and coffee. Catherine sat beside me. Austin and Savannah sat across, smirking, whispering, acting like it was all a performance. Their lawyer, some friend of a friend, argued that we couldn't evict family. But the judge wasn't moved by sentiment. She looked through the evidence calmly, flipping each page of the file I'd built over months. "They've paid no rent?" "No, Your Honor." "They've contributed to household expenses?" "None." "Then this isn't about family. It's about occupancy." The gavel came down like a closing door. 30 days to vacate. When we walked out, Austin muttered, "You'll regret this." Savannah, phone already in hand, recorded us walking to the car. "Smile, Andrew," she said. "You're famous now." That night, Catherine cried in the dark. I didn't comfort her. I just stared at the ceiling, listening to the sound of something finally ending. Over the next month they pushed every limit. Loud music at night. Broken plates left deliberately in the sink. Mocking laughter in the halls. But I didn't flinch. I'd spent years being patient. Now patience meant nothing. Luke and Macy stayed quiet, watching the spectacle unfold. They'd seen enough to understand what happens when respect dies. On the final morning, the sheriff arrived. He was kind, almost apologetic. "I'll give them 30 minutes, he said. After that, we changed the locks. Austin and Savannah stood on the porch, bags half-packed, still in disbelief. Catherine didn't hide behind me this time. She faced them squarely. "I've covered for you for years," she said. "But I won't protect you from yourselves anymore." Savannah's voice cracked. "You're choosing him over us?" Catherine shook her head. "I'm choosing peace." They left after 27 minutes. Austin slammed the car door. Savannah filmed the sheriff's car pulling away. And then they were gone, two ghosts driving away from the home they'd hollowed out. The silence that followed was unbearable and beautiful all at once. The house felt larger, emptier, alive again. Luke exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for years. Macy hugged her mother without being asked. I stood by the window watching the dust rise on the road they'd taken. I didn't feel victorious, just tired. Catherine came to me later, her eyes red. "Do you think they'll ever forgive us?" I looked out at the lake, where the water had gone still after a long wind. "Maybe," I said. "But forgiveness isn't the same as understanding." That night the house was silent. No music, no shouting, no tension. Just the creak of wood settling after too many storms. For the first time in years I slept without dreaming. The morning after the eviction, the lake was quiet. Mist rolled across the water, soft and colorless, like the world itself was exhaling. For the first time in years the house didn't hum with noise. No slamming doors. No bass thudding through the walls. No arguments muffled under laughter. Just stillness, heavy, fragile, pure. Catherine and I sat at the kitchen table drinking coffee that had gone cold. The air between us was filled with exhaustion, not victory. We had done what we had to, and yet the silence didn't feel peaceful. It felt stunned, like the pause after an explosion when you're waiting to see what's left standing. Luke came downstairs first. He looked around as if expecting someone to jump out from behind the couch. When no one did, he sighed. "It's weird," he said. "Quiet." Macy followed soon after, hair still messy from sleep. She didn't say anything, just hugged me, then her mother. It was the first morning in months that anyone had hugged anyone. By noon, the house had started to feel alive again, faintly, like an old heart remembering how to beat. Catherine opened the curtains. Sunlight poured in, illuminating the dust where their pictures had hung. We didn't put the frames back up. We just let the light fall where it wanted. Over the next few weeks, I watched small miracles unfold. Luke started doing homework without reminders. He fixed his own bike, something he hadn't done since Austin moved in. Macy began drawing again, sketching the lake, the trees, our house reflected in calm water. At night, she'd leave her sketchbook on the counter for me to see, like an offering of peace. Catherine softened too. The tension left her shoulders. She cooked again, real meals, not the frozen, silent dinners we'd all grown used to. Sometimes she'd hum to herself while chopping vegetables, and that simple sound felt like forgiveness. I thought the calm would stay. But peace doesn't arrive without payment. The world always asks for proof that you deserve it. The first letter came 2 months later, a notice from a law firm in Raleigh. Austin Carter v. Andrew Carter, claiming emotional distress, financial manipulation, and unlawful eviction. I remember reading the words and laughing once, quietly. It wasn't anger. It was disbelief at how predictable it all was. Catherine panicked. He can't really sue you. "He can try," I said. "That's what he does. He tries without doing." The court date arrived midsummer. Same courthouse, same tired judge. Austin showed up in an oversized suit, hair slicked back, arrogance thinly disguised as confidence. Savannah sat beside him, filming discreetly, her phone half hidden in her lap. The judge looked through the paperwork, her expression unmoved. "Mr. Carter," she said to me, "do you have evidence to refute these claims?" I handed over the folder, thicker now, updated with every insult, every record, every message. The judge skimmed for 5 minutes, then closed it. "Case dismissed." Austin stood there, blinking as if waiting for someone to rewrite reality for him. Savannah muttered something about bias, about how the system protects old men. The judge didn't even look up. Outside the courthouse, the heat was unbearable. Catherine and I walked past them without speaking. Austin shouted after us, "You think you won, huh? You'll regret this." I didn't turn around. I just kept walking, her hand trembling in mine. We didn't talk much that drive home. The windows were down. The wind drowned out everything else. When we pulled into the driveway, the lake shimmered under the afternoon sun. The same lake that had once reflected our family, whole and laughing. Now it reflected only us, smaller, quieter, but honest. That night, I stood at the edge of the dock with a glass of bourbon and watched the water fold into shadow. Somewhere far off, thunder rolled. The air smelled like rain and new beginnings. I thought about Austin, about the boy who once helped Luke with his bike, the one I'd tried to guide, the one who had every chance to become better than the man he worshipped. I thought about Savannah, bright, talented, lost in her own reflection. I wondered if they ever looked back, if they ever realized what they had burned to keep their pride warm. They didn't call. They didn't visit. And I didn't reach out. Some silences shouldn't be broken. They're the only walls that keep peace intact. A year passed. Luke turned 17, Macy 14. The house settled into a rhythm, ordinary, steady, unremarkable. I came home to laughter again, real laughter, not the kind that hides contempt. We built new memories, smaller ones, quieter but stronger. Then one evening, Catherine showed me a message on her phone. It was from Savannah. A photo, community college ID, captioned simply, "Starting over." Below it, a text, "Tell Andrew I'm sorry." I didn't reply. But I looked at that photo for a long time. Savannah, older now, hair darker, eyes tired. The arrogance was gone. In its place, something like humility, or maybe just exhaustion. Sometimes those two look the same. 2 weeks later, we heard that Austin had found a job at a repair shop in Greensboro. Not glamorous, not much money, but work. Honest work. Catherine smiled faintly when she told me. "Maybe they're learning," she said. "Maybe," I answered. "Or maybe the world's just teaching what we couldn't." We left it at that. Now, when I sit on the porch at dusk, I can still hear echoes of the past. Laughter that wasn't real, arguments that were too real. I don't hate them for it. Hate is just another kind of attachment. I've learned to let go. The truth is, I didn't break the family. I protected what was left of it. Some people need saving. Others need consequences. Catherine and I rarely speak of that time now. Not out of denial but mercy. The human heart can only hold so much regret before it starts to drown in it. Every so often, though, I catch her standing at the window looking toward the lake. Her reflection blends with the glass, and for a second I can't tell if she's watching the water or the ghosts in it. One night she said softly, "Do you ever miss them?" I thought about it for a long time before answering. "I miss who I thought they were," I said. "Not who they became." She nodded, understanding. That was enough. Sometimes Luke asks if Austin will ever come back to visit. I tell him maybe. Because maybe is kinder than no. Macy once wrote an essay at school about second chances. Her teacher said it made her cry. When I read it, I understood why. It wasn't about redemption. It was about boundaries, the quiet strength of a man who refuses to be erased. Life is calm now. Predictable. The bills get paid, the laughter returns, the walls stay upright. The lake still mirrors the house, steady and bright in the mornings. I go to work, draw blueprints, design homes for people who still believe structure can save them. Sometimes, as I draw, I think of my own plans, the invisible ones I built out of love and delusion. Love without respect collapses. Respect without accountability rots. I learned both lessons too late to save what we once called family. But maybe not too late to save myself. And in the end, when all the noise fades and the masks fall away, a man has to ask himself one final question, not out of guilt but truth. Was I wrong for demanding respect from those who lived off my love? Or was I just the first to stop pretending that betrayal is family?